Welcome to the Mischief. I'm Valen, and this is Create Enchantment Industry. It's an expansion mod for Create that adds in a whole slew of new enchantment options, as well as some different types of liquid experience. Remember the good old days of Bibliocraft when you could pretty much upgrade your enchantments rather simply by creating a printing press? Well, that seems to have come back in this style of mod, but it is obviously made to work with Create. But there's a lot more to it than what you might think. Let's go over the basics and we'll work through the more advanced things. There is a small chance that if I put some creatures in here that they will then start dropping a bit of some XP. There is a nugget of experience. It's not very likely, but it is possible. Another small change is that the deployer can also use Sweeping Edge, and it has a chance of dropping off some XP orbs as well. Something else that's changed is Bottles O Enchanting can also be drained using an item drain, and their liquid XP inside ends up being, well, you can store it in a regular fluid container. And then if you want to refill it, you just take a glass bottle and have it refilled using a spout. Now there aren't many things that this mod adds. As you can see here, that's pretty much the list of it at the top left. And those items of note are pretty much just these here, and only some of those are going to be covered in this bit by bit. Primarily it adds in a few different types of XP plus ink and a way of using those things. In this case, we're going to be covering next the Disenchanter. This is a copper casing with some kind of sandpaper on there, depending upon what mods you have installed. And any item that is kind of pushed across its surface will then start disenchanting things. We're not looking at item drains though, we're looking at this, the Disenchanter. This here is what we're wanting to actually use. Now I've got a whole bunch of items in here that are going to be disenchanted. Let's just pull the lever and it'll start dropping these items on this conveyor belt. It will then start turning them into liquid XP, which then I'm having pumped off into this fluid tank system over here. Now, it doesn't have to be just these items. You can also take things like nuggets of experience, and you can toss them on there too, which will then just go straight into it in a liquid form. Let's toss the entire stack, and there you go. You can see it then goes in there. It's rather small amounts, but that's really just making it more convenient to move around. And no, don't worry, the items don't get destroyed. They just get the enchantments removed, so they're just pushed aside to the opposite side. Now that's not all that it can actually drain. If I stand on here, I can start draining my own player XP. Going into survival, yes, I've got quite a few levels currently equipped. There's a good reason for that, and you'll understand shortly. But you can see that my XP bar is slowly draining and now filling the entire tank. So what if you want some of that XP back? Don't worry, you just need to have a leaky pipe that is attached to any kind of XP reservoir, and it will start pouring out the XP onto the ground. As you can see, my XP bar is now going up slightly. Then all you need to do to stop that, well, actually, if you don't want to, you can just back off and it will start dropping the little orbs on the ground, but I'll just plug that leak. Okay, you might think that I'm being a bit silly, but there's a good reason why I'm standing on this fire, and that's more or less just so that I can show that I have mending boots on. Now, if I take these mending boots, head over here to where I've got a spout and a depot, or you could even use a belt or something similar like that. Just put it on here. It will then use some of the XP that is stored and instantly repair these boots. Next up, let's talk about ink. As one might think, it might involve any number of different black dye items or ink sacks, plus a little bit of water. Getting it mixed up will get you, well, the same amount of black ink that you would as far as the water is involved. Now, using that or XP, you can then use this next device, the printer. The printer is simply a copper casing, dried kelp, and an iron sheet. And while that may be easy to make, some of the things that you want it to do might be a little bit more complex and will require different ingredients. For example, written books. I have this book here that pretty much touts our second YouTube channel, as well as our Twitch streams, which I highly recommend you go and visit. But that aside, I can put this on here. That aside, I can just right-click on this printer at the top with the book. It will then accept it in place, and if I look at it with goggles on, you can see here it says Object to be copied. Mischief 2, 1 page, consumes ink 5 millibuckets. Not very much to worry about, and shouldn't be a problem. I just need to have something for it to copy to. You might think, well, I need a book and quill, right? No, because it acts as the quill, so all you need is just the book. Put it on here, and it will just make a copy. Now, it does take a moment, but then once it's complete, you can then just right-click that, take it into your inventory. I already have a couple of them in there now, and yeah, it's just a really good way of making a printing press. Now, you will have to have ink being pumped into a printer in order for this to work, and it's going to be the same with any of these things. They'll either need some kind of XP or ink in order to function properly. But next, we're going to go with enchanted books. Now, in this case, I have a Protection 4 book in place. Now, all I need to do is put a regular book here, and it will start making a copy. You can see it uses a bunch more XP, and it will do the Protection 4 in that place. There we go. I now have another Protection 4 book. Now over here we've got name tags. Now you can make a name tag and put it on there. In this case, I've got one here called like, comment, and subscribe. Yes, I'm getting in all those extras today. But if I put something in place down here, whether it be a name tag or an item, it can then rename it to the appropriate name tag that you have put in place. There we go. Appropriately named. Then, of course, I have a train schedule that's set up here, and you can also put that on there and copy that just to duplicate it if you need to. And same as before, it just does this little thing, and it then has this extra schedule that I already had put in place. Next, we talk about the Blaze Enchanter, but in order to make a Blaze Enchanter, you need to have one of these, an enchanting guide. These are made with a sturdy sheet and a book, which is not exactly the easiest thing to make. But once complete, you can then just right-click your enchanting guide, and you can insert an appropriate book. Now in this case, I've got an Unbreaking 1 book. I could also do Protection 4 if I wanted to, just basically putting it in there. And it just uses a ghost of the item, so it doesn't actually use it up. Keep that in mind. Now in this case, I've got an Unbreaking 1 enchantment that I want to put in here. So then if I sneak right-click, I can place it. Alternately, I can also just sneak right-click with an empty hand, and I can do the same exact thing because it's already got that little enchanting guide in there. Now this guy is an automatic enchanter of sorts. So if I take one of these axes, this one has sharpness 5 and mending on it, and I just kind of toss it on the side here, it will then accept it. Does a little bit of a dance, and it enchants it. And you might think, wow, that's pretty amazing. It just does that without using up any XP. No, it has an XP feed down below. As you can see down here, I have it being fed in from the bottom. You might think, well, I can feed it in from the sides or something. I don't think that it works that way. My testing was not really working to have it being fed from the sides. You do have to have it being fed from the bottom in my experience, but that could be changed in the future. Who knows? That aside, now you can see it now has that, and the previous nether axe that I had does not have mending, or does not have unbreaking on it. So if I toss the same one on there, it has the same enchantment, it'll just jump over it. And any enchantments that you want to try and use that is not appropriate for the item, like if I tried putting sharpness on a set of armor, it would just jump over it. Also, these guys don't use books. You can't use books with these guys, no. Next, we're going to talk about the upgrade for this guy, but in order to get there, we have to discuss a little something new, and that's Liquid Hyper Experience. This is made with a glow ink sac, lapis lazuli or lazuli, and some liquid XP. You mix it all up with it being a superheated blaze burner underneath, and that will get you some liquid hyper XP. Now that, besides giving you large amounts of XP in a compressed fashion, will also have the potential to supercharge your Blaze Enchanter. Just so happens I have one down here that is currently being fed some of that, but it does need the enchantment guide first. So let me grab my like, comment, subscribe wrench here, sneak right click, and it will just give me back that enchanting guide that I had given here. So if I give this one the Unbreaking Enchantment Guide, which is just Unbreaking 1. You'll see it is now in hyper mode, and it does Unbreaking 2. So it will actually go one step above. So for example, if I use Protection 4 instead, let's do sneak right click. We can do Protection 4 on here, and you look at it, it now says Protection 5. So let's take these goggles. Now you notice I don't have any kind of belt being fed in this case. All you need to do is click on the side of one of these guys and it will start the enchantment. In this case, it just wears it. So let's use something that it's not going to wear, and instead I'm going to give it that pair of boots that had mending on it and see if I can get some Protection 5 on these fancy copper boots. And there we have it. And once it's complete, after clicking on the side, it'll just hover on top of it. It's not actually in place. It can despawn, so you're going to want to make sure to pick that up. And you can see now I have Protection 5 and Mending on these fancy shiny boots. And the whole time it's being fed Hyper XP, which is not exactly the cheapest stuff. It's rather expensive and challenging to make, but that's part of the process. And just to round out the last little bit that is left of this mod, and that's the Experience Rotor. This is used for a mod compatibility to change Liquid XP from one type of mod to another. So if you're having difficulties, that's where that is going to be used in. Otherwise, it won't have a recipe if there's nothing to basically convert. But it also has Compat with Apotheosis and Quark, so you can use those in some better aspects as well. And there you have it, one more bit by bit, another add-on for Create that I thought was pretty darn cool and is being used in a lot of recent mod packs. If you found this useful and would like to see more videos like this, please be sure to give a like, comment, subscribe. Also, come visit us on Twitch where we live stream regularly, or come visit us on our Mischief of Mice 2 channel where we post our vids from the live streams. And until next time, folks, I'll see ya.